Morning begins quietly above an ocean that appears perfectly calm, hiding movements too vast for human perception below.
A passenger liner crosses the open water, guided by routine navigation and the comforting rhythm of steady engines.
To those on board, the ocean is scenery, an endless moving landscape meant only to be admired, never questioned. Far ahead, the waves stop traveling straight, bending gently, as if guided by an unseen contour.
The vessel continues forward, but the ocean quietly begins moving beneath it in another direction.
Across kilometers of water, a pattern forms large enough to escape ordinary understanding.
Control shifts from automation to instinct as the ship resists its intended course.
To the untrained eye, the sea becomes mesmerizing rather than threatening.
Below deck, machinery senses resistance long before humans understand its cause.
The water organizes itself into vast rings, revealing a structure larger than the ship. The horizon bends downward toward a distant center, and the ocean begins steering the vessel.
The horizon no longer holds steady, drifting across the glass as the ship quietly begins to orbit.
Coordinates repeat themselves, proving forward speed no longer means forward progress. Inside the ship, gravity feels altered, not stronger, but constantly leaning in one direction.
The sea transforms into structure, a rotating landscape wider than the horizon itself.
Experience replaces assumption as trained eyes recognize motion, too organized to be random.
Objects begin choosing their own direction, guided by a force passengers cannot see.
Machinery struggles against water that behaves less like liquid and more like moving terrain. Far ahead lies the focus point, a distant region where all motion converges.
I need everyone to stay calm and follow me inside immediately. Please watch your step and move quickly.
Beauty and danger merge as light itself traces the ocean's hidden rotation. Even secured structures begin reacting to motion that never pauses.
Control becomes negotiation, as the sea answers every command differently than expected.
Each circle grows smaller, guiding the vessel toward an unseen throat. Evening light reveals the scale of motion, painting a perfect circle around the ship.
The realization spreads quietly. The ship is no longer traveling across the ocean.
Darkness removes distraction, revealing motion racing past the vessel in endless curved paths.
The compass turns without command, confirming the ocean now controls direction. Movement requires effort, as the floor no longer agrees with gravity's expectation.
The sea forms a sloping plane, descending toward a center, hidden within darkness.
Preparation replaces explanation, while calm voices guide uncertain hands.
Propulsion falters against water already traveling faster than the ship can push.
Even gravity loses predictability when the ocean itself moves sideways beneath it.
A signal travels into the night, carrying coordinates that refuse to stay still.
The spiral narrows, guiding everything toward the same silent destination.
Small motions become warnings of forces far larger than they appear.
Hope arrives as faint lights approach across a sky pulled by rising air.
The night fractures under white light,
revealing the ship's true angle. Precision begins where seconds decide who leaves and who waits. The center emerges, not violent, but impossibly deep and waiting.
The first lift begins as people step carefully into a moving doorway above the sea.
From the air, the vessel's path reveals a tightening orbit drawn by the ocean's geometry.
Inside, every hallway becomes a slope, leading toward an unseen edge.
The boundary between ship and sea begins to blur with each rotation.
Technology falters when orientation itself refuses to remain constant.
The spiral tightens, and the ocean accelerates toward its silent center. Order holds against fear as movement becomes survival's only rule.
The ship loses its final argument against the current.
The sea dips downward, forming a horizon that curves into darkness. Each ascent removes a life from the reach of the turning water.
The vessel no longer sails, it glides along a rotating plane. The ocean begins pulling the sky as air follows water's motion. Every circle shortens the distance to a point of no return.
Counting becomes essential when time is measured in rotations instead of minutes. Leadership ends not with command, but with the certainty that the sea cannot be persuaded. The final extraction begins as the spiral accelerates beneath them.
A floating city becomes a silent structure, waiting for gravity to choose direction.
The boundary between falling and floating finally disappears. Witnesses leave the circle, but the vessel continues alone. Balance fades as the outer edge of stability slips beneath it. The ocean receives the hull not with violence, but with steady inevitability. Illumination fades behind mist as the sea closes its moving surface. The final motion resembles drifting more than falling. The ocean keeps no monument, only motion where structure once existed. Above the spiral, survival continues, while the sea resumes its ancient rhythm. Morning returns quietly, as if the night never altered the water at all. Only scattered fragments remain to suggest something vast once struggled here. Ships arrive to document coordinates, where motion briefly rewrote certainty. Recovery replaces rescue as evidence rises from the calm surface. The ocean releases traces slowly, never explaining what it borrowed. Nothing now reveals the rotating force that existed hours before. Observation begins where survival ends, seeking patterns in absence. The structure dissolves back into countless smaller motions, guiding the sea. Those who witnessed it struggle to describe motion larger than memory. The ocean offers peace again, unchanged in appearance, and infinite in depth. Objects continue traveling long after the moment that defined them. A location becomes a record rather than a destination.
Vastness hides history effortlessly beneath familiar horizons.
Beneath calm water, currents still move beyond human awareness. The sea does not remember, it only continues moving. Across the planet, water moves constantly in patterns too large to notice from within. Beneath the surface, invisible rivers travel in different directions at different speeds. Boundaries form where density changes, creating structures that hold immense stored energy. When opposing flows interact, motion can organize instead of canceling. Rotation begins gradually, expanding upward long before the surface responds. To observers above, nothing appears different, while forces gather below.
Light becomes the earliest messenger of organized motion.
Scale transforms the phenomenon into something the human mind struggles to interpret.
A vessel crossing such water feels only gentle resistance at first.
Movement relative to the sea changes long before course changes appear.
Forward thrust becomes circular motion within a moving reference frame.
Energy concentrates toward the center, where speed increases steadily. The atmosphere follows the ocean when motion grows strong enough.
Memory struggles to hold an event that leaves no visible trace behind.
Calm water feels unfamiliar after witnessing motion that reshaped reality.
Distance restores perspective, yet questions remain suspended over the sea.
Explanations begin with patterns drawn long after the moment has passed.
Science reconstructs what human senses could never fully perceive directly.
Data confirms motion consistent with a rare alignment of natural forces.
Measurements search for echoes of currents that have already moved on. Life below experiences motion differently, guided by instincts older than ships. A simple marker replaces a memory too vast to visualize. Time continues, regardless of events that briefly disrupt expectations. From far enough away, even immense motion becomes invisible again. Hours earlier, this same deck carried laughter instead of silent recollection. Ordinary moments feel distant after witnessing nature reorganize the familiar world.
The sea gives no warning recognizable to those who rarely study it closely.
Tiny interactions can build structures far beyond immediate perception.
Change in nature often unfolds slowly enough to avoid alarm.
Motion is constant, even when nothing dramatic appears above.
Humans interpret stability where patterns simply repeat for a while.
Observation becomes meaningful only when expectation is questioned.
The earliest signs exist long before danger becomes obvious.
Scale hides structure until perspective shifts high enough to see.
The mind understands shapes faster than it understands causes.
Even small objects reveal movement, ignored by the human eye.
Planetary waters constantly exchange energy across unimaginable distances. Beauty often shares the same origin as danger.
The ocean remains what it has always been, vast beyond interpretation.
After events end, spaces feel larger, holding echoes of decisions once made under pressure. The absence of movement reveals how constant motion once defined every moment.
Survival sometimes drifts quietly after chaos releases its grip.
Simple materials become lifelines when technology reaches its limits. Witnesses carry understanding long after the sea forgets the encounter. Depth preserves motion that surface calm can never fully conceal. Knowledge forms when imagination aligns carefully with measured evidence. Patterns become language, allowing humans to describe what cannot be held. The sea answers every impact with motion, spreading outward endlessly. Evening restores familiarity, even when understanding has changed.
From distance, scale removes drama and leaves only pattern.
The story ends where movement continues beyond human timelines.
Night returns the sea to silence, concealing motion continuing far below the surface.
Invisible rivers move endlessly, where sunlight has never reached human sight. Morning disguises complexity beneath a surface that appears perfectly ordinary again. Every small movement belongs to a larger pattern waiting beyond perception. Human passage leaves marks only briefly upon the water's memory. Planetary motion guides every local event, whether witnessed or ignored.
The same forces shaping disasters also shape the quietest shores.
Motion often begins with a signal too delicate to command attention. Most journeys pass safely through waters that once aligned differently. The ocean never rests. It only changes the scale of its motion.
Familiar beauty hides systems vast enough to humble certainty.
Patterns repeat until rare conditions briefly transform them into something greater.
Calmness is not absence of movement, only balance restored.
The cycle continues beyond memory, beyond record, beyond witness.
The sea remains unchanged, while understanding quietly deepens within those who saw. Each day begins with calm that reveals nothing of yesterday's hidden motion.
Distance reduces even extraordinary events into simple patterns across the surface. The smallest waves still follow forces far beyond their visible form. Instruments watch patiently
for motions too gradual for human attention. Depth keeps secrets, not through mystery, but through scale.
Most voyages cross oceans without ever meeting their hidden structures.
Stability is only motion balanced for a brief moment in time. The planet's circulation continues, whether observed or forgotten. Time softens motion until turbulence becomes memory alone. Above and below, patterns repeat without beginning or end. Nature reshapes itself constantly, rarely witnessed at its largest scale. The deeper the water, the longer motion persists unseen. The ocean remains vast, patient, and endlessly in motion. What once seemed impossible now exists only as memory, carried by those who survived. The surface returns to normal, never revealing the forces that briefly aligned below. Nature rarely marks the places where extraordinary events unfolded. Investigation ends, but understanding continues evolving beyond recorded coordinates. Direction feels reliable again once the moving frame disappears. Motion slows, yet never truly stops anywhere within the ocean.
From afar, all turbulence becomes part of a balanced system. Calmness is simply motion without conflict.
Every disturbance eventually dissolves back into larger patterns.
The sea keeps no record, except the one humans remember.
Boundaries blur when scale exceeds human perception.
Perspective reveals that vastness itself is the true story.
Motion continues long after the witness has gone. The ocean never intended meaning, only